Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa. Amma ba'd. Honorable listener, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is said that information literacy is perhaps a key, some would say, the key competency of the 21st century, essential to the prospering of human civilization. In the same way, learning to read and write was for previous generations. It goes without saying that it also impacts on the religious health of the Muslim community. We take you back to the year 1995. In an interview with Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, a journalist by the name of Prashad commented, "Let's say I call myself the Institute for something or other, and I decide to promote a spurious treatise saying the Jews were entirely responsible for the Second World War and the Holocaust did not happen. And it goes out there on the internet and is available on the same terms as any piece of historical research which has undergone peer review and so on. There is a kind of parity of esteem of information on the net. It's all there. There's no way of finding out whether this stuff has any bottom to it or whether someone has just made it up." This is what this journalist commented in the interview with Bill Gates. Bill Gates, in response, was optimistic and disagreed, saying that the authorities on the net would index and check facts and reputations in a much more sophisticated way than in print. But it was the journalist who had accurately predicted how the internet would be used as a platform to propagate and legitimize fake news. It is evidently clear that we need to develop the competency in our information age to sift through mountains of information to distinguish between the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is what information scientists and professionals refer to as information literacy. Firstly, we must distinguish between knowledge and information. Over 30 years ago, a futurist scholar by the name of John Naisbitt lamented, "We are drowning in information, but starved for knowledge." True knowledge is to understand something as it actually exists in reality. In contrast, information consists of reports and data which could be true but are liable to misinterpretation, misrepresentation, and at times even outright forgery. When information is false or misleading, it is called misinformation. When information is deliberately falsified to obscure the truth, it is called disinformation. It is only authentic knowledge of reality, not simple information, that gives people an edge over others. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has informed us in the Quran, قُلْ هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. How can those who know be equal to those who do not know? Only those who have understanding will take heed. As such, it is our duty to search for the truth and to accept it when and where we find it. Information literacy is a set of abilities that allows for 1, the understanding of how information is produced and valued, 2, use of information in creating new knowledge, and 3, participating ethically in communities of learning. Information literacy is simply learning how to learn in the information age. These abilities very simply are 2. 1, attitudes and mindset, and secondly, the application of methodologies of assessment and evaluation. They could include academic and technological skills. What are the attitudes and mindsets that we need to have in order to become literally informed? Firstly, we need to be humble intellectually. The significant role of knowledge, ilm in Islam, cannot be sufficiently stated. Its acquisition, and together with its acquisition, which is a lifelong pursuit, we are encouraged to pray that we are increased in knowledge. Rabbi zidni ilma. We should acquire knowledge so that we fulfill our religious obligations and organize our material life comfortably. Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayh is reported to have said, "Do not settle in a land in which there is no scholar to inform you about your religion, nor a doctor to inform you about your body." Whilst appreciating the significance ilm enjoys in the life of a Muslim, we need to imbibe in us intellectual humility. One needs to accept the possibility that in secondary religious issues, as well as in any worldly endeavor, one could be wrong or mistaken. The same attitude applies to any field of knowledge. We pursue, yes, the most accurate information we can, while keeping in mind that, like anyone else, we have our own biases and we commit errors. Regular self-evaluation and inward mindfulness is necessary to avoid intellectual stagnation. If we fail to acknowledge that our personal perspective has a degree of subjectivity, we might be misled by our own confirmation bias, which is our tendency to uncritically accept new information that supports our pre-existing narrative or theory. We should be humble enough to accept the truth wherever we find it and from whoever says it, whether it is from an opposing scholar, a dissenting scientist, or a common person. These attitudinal dispositions are the prerequisites not only for acquiring information literacy, but likewise for achieving success in religious and worldly learning. We look at certain methodologies that will help us become literally informed. Information literacy depends upon the ability to distinguish a credible source from a less credible or totally unreliable source. We need to identify the experts in various fields. Of course, expertise is not infallible. However, experts are far more likely to be correct than lay people. Experts are the first sources from which we seek knowledge. Relying upon experts in this manner is the concept known as information authority. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to ask the experts whenever we do not know something. He has said, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا قَبْلَكَ إِلَّا رِجَالًا نُوحِي إِلَيْهِمْ فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And we have not sent before you, O Muhammad, except men to whom we revealed the message. So ask the people of the message if you do not know. We can extract a general principle from this verse that the way to acquire knowledge is to refer questions to expert guidance. This is the only way to overcome ignorance of an issue. As Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam has also said, is not the cure for ignorance to ask questions. However, we are sometimes presented with information from unreliable sources, information that may or may not be true. Such an incident occurred in the time of the Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Allah revealed guidance for us in such situations. Allah said, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu in ja'akum fasiqun بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. Translated as, O you who believe, if a troublemaker brings you news, check it first, in case you wrong others unwittingly, and later regret what you have done. This verse and the cause of its revelation deliver important lessons for us. When exposed to dubious information, caution is warranted. If we receive information from unknown sources, much less from not credible sources, then it is necessary that we verify the information. Healthy skepticism in this context, but not cynicism, which assumes the worst, is an important attitude to have. Hence, we should be cautious against spreading information which we receive in the online environment. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam is reported to have said, "It is enough falsehood for someone to speak of everything he hears. The danger is all the more real in our time, as a lie can be transmitted around the world at the speed of light, literally. To crystallize, we need to ask the experts for authoritative knowledge. We need to be cautious from whom we seek knowledge, information, particularly if it is dubious. And lastly, do not broadcast everything you hear, read, or see." Part of the methodologies so that we become literally informed is fact-checking. Academic books are subject to peer review before and after publication, so dissenting scholars can point out the mistakes and disagreements. It requires the skills of academic literacy and awareness of peer review sources and methods to sift through competing narratives on university campuses. No media source is free from leaning one way or another. This is true for all people who unavoidably draw upon their subjective life experiences. Consequently, an aspect of media literacy is the ability to evaluate news articles according to their sources, methods, and editorial standards. To see how this works in the online environment, which is probably the first place many of us need to apply this principle, is to ask ourselves these questions. Who wrote this article? Who sponsors the site? Is there an agenda to the content? Is it complete, accurate, current? What kind of page is it? Is the URL appropriate for the kind of content on the site? The internet is a powerful tool with a tremendous amount of information to offer, but verify is still the name of the game. By acquiring and teaching these skills within our community, inshallah, we can protect ourselves, our families, and our communities from Islamophobic disinformation, scam artists, fake news, conspiracy theories, and other such sources of deceit. More importantly, we will protect ourselves from earning the sin of complicity in the worldwide propagation of false narratives, fraud, and lies. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it such that we become information literate, so that we do not become victims of misinformation, disinformation, and the like. Ameen. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.